Hello everybody, welcome to the Formula 1 Fallout for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Definitely not a classic, I think we can all agree, but enormously pivotal for the championship. Both the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship after what was an interesting afternoon on the edge of is it the Caspian Sea or is it the Red Sea? Can't actually remember, if I'm being honest. Doesn't matter anyway. So, if you don't know, Max Verstappen won the race from Sergio Perez. George Russell got a podium for Mercedes with Lewis Hamilton in fourth. One of his best drives of the year, I thought. Pierre Gasly came home fifth. Sebastian Vettel in sixth. Fernando Alonso seventh. Daniel Ricciardo coming home eighth. Lando Norris in ninth. And Esteban Ocon in 10th. Now, as I'm sure you've already spotted, there are two pretty big names that are missing from the top 10. As Ferrari's title hopes maybe just went up in smoke. Quite literally. Carlos Sainz retired on lap 9 due to hydraulics before Charles Leclerc's engine blew up on lap 20. It's Leclerc's second engine failure in 3 races. He retired from the lead in Spain when he was looking pretty much in control there. And now another failure. It leaves him third in the championship, falling behind Perez. He's 34 points now behind Max Verstappen. And just for context, he was 46 ahead after he won in Melbourne. Of course, Verstappen retired from that race. But if you add all the maths together, that's an 80-point swing in just 5 races. It's been such a damning period for Ferrari, and it could be the one that cost them the championship, even if they get on top of this. But they are looking like the second fastest car anyway, and with these reliability problems. And, I mean, this wasn't just the Ferraris themselves. All but 2 Ferrari power cars retired from the race, all with engine issues. So, of course, you had both Sainz and Leclerc, and then you had Kevin Magnussen for Haas, and then Zhou Guanyu, who was having a pretty strong race in 10th. He also had to retire due to an engine issue. That's massively concerning for Ferrari. And, I mean, it also took away from the race, really. I mean, Leclerc took an early stop under the VSC. I think it was actually for Sainz's, when Sainz stopped on the circuit. And that could have given us a bit of a battle up front with the Red Bulls. I think it was shaping up quite nicely. But then, yeah, it kind of turned into a bit of procession after that. The Red Bulls kind of took it easy way out front. I mean, it was a masterful drive from Verstappen as well, I have to say, to finish 20 seconds ahead of Perez on what I thought was going to be one of the strongest tracks we'd seen from Sergio. It's certainly been a very strong one for him in the past. But it was a dominant victory for Verstappen in the end. And I mean, as for Leclerc, you think Spain, that's a massive blow to have an engine failure. But then you think of Verstappen early in the year, you think, okay, we're kind of equaling out the bad luck here. Then you have Monaco, looked almost certain to win the race, and it's a strategy blunder. It's not his fault. He comes home fourth, more points lost. And then now, with an engine blow-up in Baku, I think it's starting to raise talk that the title could be gone already from Ferrari. I mean, the one-lap pace is there, certainly. You don't get 4 pole positions in a row for Charles Leclerc without a fast car. But the race pace, it just doesn't seem to hold a candle to the Red Bulls. I mean, from the start, Perez got ahead at turn 1. And from there, it didn't really look as though Charles was able to mount a challenge. The Red Bulls were so fast on a straight line, although they're catching them in the corners. Ferrari, it just didn't look like they were going to beat them on raw pace, and the strategy calls could have made it interesting. See if maybe Leclerc could wrangle out a 2-stop and challenge them later in the Grand Prix, but we'll never find out how that went. But yeah, more ground lost in the title race for Charles Leclerc. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think Ferrari's title chances are already over? Do you think they can recover from this? Let me know what you think down in the comment section. The next thing I really wanted to talk about with this race was actually Mercedes, because I thought this was a great performance from them. Hamilton especially, because he looked like a broken man getting out of that car. They were having such enormous problems porpoising down the very long, bumpy Baku straight, which is normally a normal road. It's not a purpose-built circuit, so it's not going to be a smooth surface all the way down there, and it really seemed to be hurting Hamilton, complaining out his back during the race. So fair play to him for just getting to the end. I mean, he was saying after the race, he was having to bite his teeth together, just to try and ease the pain. I think it was adrenaline that got him through. And again, a great drive from Russell, picking up the pieces from Ferrari's mishaps, getting another P3, another top 5 finish for, it was called on the radio, Mr. Consistent, which I kind of like. It's certainly been a strong start to the season for George Russell, and he's really showing his mettle, as I think a lot of us thought he would. But even with the problems Hamilton's having, I don't think anybody expected George to pretty much look, being honest, so comfortably ahead of Hamilton at this point. Some very strong race pace once again from Mercedes, despite the problems that they have with their car. I mean, Toto made it pretty clear what he thinks of the car after the race. But they're picking up the pieces from the mishaps, as they have done all season. And this is the best they can ask for right now, in comparison to the dominant era that's kind of just passed, really, for Mercedes. Good strategy calls again. They acted very quickly with the virtual safety car towards the end. I think it was for Kevin Magnussen. They used that for Hamilton, and although he lost time in the pits and lost a couple of positions, that probably won him 4th place in the end, because the pace difference between him and Pierre Gasly towards the end made it an easy pass for him. So well done to Mercedes for that. However, there was one thing which is kind of the negative side of sort of what we heard about Mercedes, is that there is talk with the porpoising so bad, particularly on their car, and now we're off to Canada for the next race. It's only in a week's time, and that's another similarly long, bumpy straight that could cause them more problems, that there could be measures introduced across the grid to try and stop or reduce the porpoising. Now, there are two sides to this. The first one is genuinely safety, because you've got 200 miles an hour and they're bouncing, their eyes are doing this, and it's fair play to the drivers for being able to keep focused and spot braking points, but it does bring a safety concern, as well as the actual injuries the drivers do seem to be suffering. Of course, we were talking about Lewis and his lower back, and I think there have been some other drivers who have noted, at the very least, discomfort, but it could be a lot worse than that. However, I don't agree at all with this idea that because Mercedes, or maybe a couple of the other teams, are suffering from it so badly, that we need to start introducing blanket guidelines or measurements across the whole grid. Whether we need to start raising ride heights or doing something with the tyres in order to try and reduce it, because teams like Red Bull, as well as some others, have found solutions around it, and they've developed their car around it to reduce the porpoising issue without losing any performance. Should they lose their advantage, which they may have invested millions of pounds into a budget cap sport, I just don't really think that's fair, just because Mercedes can't figure a solution out. Now, maybe this is all exaggerated because it's Mercedes that can't find a solution. And they're obviously one of the bigger teams. Maybe if this was one of the smaller teams, we wouldn't be talking about this anywhere near as much, which I feel is bad to say, but I'm only being honest here. I don't think it's fair. You can't be introducing new regulations mid-season with teams figuring out solutions and maybe having compromised parts of their car to find those solutions. But if it's a problem that maybe it's Mercedes in particular, I mean, they do look as though that they're the worst for the porpoising and the bouncing, then maybe there should be directives put onto them in order for the well-being of their drivers. I think it's an interesting one, though. Let me know what you think in the comments below. is this more a safety concern, or is this a sporting integrity, fairness concern? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about it. Kind of to wrap up the rest of the race, because there weren't actually that many more talking points, really, I thought. There were some great drives, though, up and down the pit lane. Pierre Gasly, in particular, a P5 for AlphaTauri. Definitely his standout performance of the year. But also Sebastian Vettel coming home 6th. I mean, he had a half spin trying to pass Esteban Ocon. He had to go down the escape route and sort of fling it round, and lost a couple of positions. Lost position to Hamilton in the early stages of the race. Had he not have done that, he maybe could have even finished 4th. I mean, it's probably a bit of a long shot, but it was such a fantastic drive from Seb, and great to see him pick up a good result. I really feel like he needed that. I think there's some questions over Sebastian's long-term future in Formula 1, and how much longer is he going to be here for. But to see him deliver such a strong performance out of that car, which is by no means has any right to be up in 6th at the minute, I think it was really good testament to the fact that he's still got it. But also Daniel Ricciardo, another one that I feel like needed a really strong performance today, and he delivered a great drive from the Aussie. He made the strategy work for him. Started out on the half tyres and he was stuck behind Lando, and even though he looked as though he was quicker than Lando for large parts of that race, he wasn't allowed to pass. Benefited from the VSC, he was running as high as 4th, but then he had to box and drop back. He still came out ahead of Lando. The team told him to hold station, Lando really coming up behind him quickly, but coming home 8th, I feel that's a really good confidence booster for Daniel Ricciardo, jumping up 4 positions, and hopefully that can continue now. It's not been the easiest year for him, but hopefully this is the springboard to see some of that old magic that we love from Danny Rick. But the other interesting thing, I think this is probably the low point of the race, personally, was what was happening with Tsunoda's rear wing. It somehow, the DRS managed to split in half. You kind of got I think it was the Alpha side that was closed and then the Tauri side that was open. It was very strange to see. And they give him a black and orange flag, which is coming to the pits, come and fix it. And then AlphaTauri come out with some gaffer tape it down. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, there's no way they're going to let that happen. Oh no, that's fine. Send him on his way. No problem here. Just to remind you, this is a multi-billion-pound sport. But nah, it's gaffer tape the rear wing. But yeah, let me know what you think about the race in Baku, about the race in Azerbaijan. What do you think about Ferrari's title chances? What do you think about Mercedes? Are they going to be able to fix their porpoising problems? Thank you so much for watching the video. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And hopefully I will see you after the Canadian Grand Prix in only a week's time. Only a week to wait, which makes me so happy. Makes me so delighted. Only a week left to wait until the next one. I'll see you later. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Have a good week. Bye-bye.